Finally, it's time to double. Now, do I mean to double down or that the stock will double? All about that just after a small little intro. And guys, I exactly know what you're thinking. You are maybe a shareholder already, or you might think to invest in space. And you're thinking, if you're looking into the stock market where everything now seems to be exploding right now, we see that space stock, Virgin Galactic, is not of this big performer, right? I mean, thinking about a little bit a couple of months ago, we saw an absolutely insane go from about 12, which we had in the beginning of January, until mid of February, where we got 210% plus, guys, okay? And now you might think, well, is this really the right stock? Is it, worth to invest right now, when it can go further, and so on and so forth? And all of these questions we will go through in this vlog. Now let's have a look what happens then. After February of 2020, we had the huge crash where we lost about 71% of the value. And since then, the highest the stock went up was about from the lows to the highest highs at about 19 or 20, which was 90% plus. And then we went kind of sideways, right? I mean, from 25th of March until now, we almost stayed flat. And this has to do with the kind of news that we actually have. We have a couple of news, right? Like NASA agreement. We have a kind of cabin reveal. We had other news that impact this company so much, or could impact so much, but actually this didn't reflect into the stock. And this is the big question, why it does so and why it should or should not affect the stock. Now let's have a look into the last couple of months. And as you can see, the stock is quite volatile, okay? At the one day, beginning of June, we are at 17, then we drop to 14, then we go back to 17, then we go back to 15, then we go back to 17. Now, this is something normal, guys. Volatile stocks for growth stocks or young companies like Virgin Galactic is totally normal, guys, because you have so many different market participants like short sellers, long-term investors, short-term investors, traders, day traders, so swing traders especially, right? This stock is perfect for swing traders over the last couple of months. So as you can see, the last 3 months was very up and down, like the best roller coaster that I ever went to. But this is totally normal, guys. We have higher volumes. Then we had Richard Branson selling the stock. Then we had other news and overall market sentiment that was up and down, and therefore you see that this is highly affecting the stock. Because if you're looking into the news, actually we don't have of a big impact, and this is where we're diving in right now into the company news. And there we will divide it into two categories, which we will discuss what the stock really needs to double right now. Richard, I'm ready for takeoff. Well, actually, I'm not that much ready for takeoff. I want to have more and more Virgin Galactic stock. I built up a position where I think that this is quite nice to start with, but slowly I want to put more and more of my portfolio into Virgin Galactic stock. And if you want to know which trading I do real time, I usually post this in my Discord channel. So click the join button below all my videos to check out the 3 tiers that you can support this channel, to be a Wolf Golden tier to support the channel, or to get Discord with the 2nd tier, or even have one-on-one with me and any of my social media. Now let's talk about the news that we just saw over the last couple of months. And I see 3 type of news for the stock right now. First, we see the core business. The core business are news that are really impacting how the company will do over the next years. Then we have the NTH news, which is nice to have news. And then we have the stock influenced news, which I see a couple of different ones, which we will discuss now. So let's start with the news that are nice to have news. And those are, for example, the NASA agreement. Why? Now you might think, wow, the NASA agreement is a big deal. Well, it is, but is it bringing the aircraft and space tourism further to start where we actually are all waiting for? No, it doesn't. It's something that is nice to have for the future because we have more and more revenue, but still they have to figure out how to bring the first tourism and Richard Branson into the air. So I believe that this news like this, or the other NASA agreement that they had before, or the news like the cabin reveal, those are news that are nice to have, but don't bring the core business further into development and brings more investors into the idea of, wow, now they are making huge progress towards the first clients shooting into the air, because this is the main business that they have to figure out. So this is the nice to have category, which is, as I said, nice to have and don't impact significantly the stock over the long term. The second news is the stock influence news. Well, this is news, it doesn't have to be related to this company at all. It can be related to the overall market, right? So second wave news, Richard selling the stock news. Those are bearish signals shooting the stock down, and this is actually not so good for the stock. And this shouldn't affect you long term, because long term is the most important way to think in stock investment, as you know from this channel. And if you are thinking that this stock will be affected by this news, don't forget that it might affect the stock but doesn't affect the company. It was about 2001 where we had an interview with Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who said, you know, after the dot-com crash, he saw the stock is going down and down and down and down. But he looked then into the internal data that the company produced, growth, customers, product portfolio. All of those data showed, you know, highly progress into the company, and the stock was totally a different direction because the overall market was down. The dot-com crash just happened. So stock traders, stock investors were not so efficient in their investments, and these are heavily undervalued stocks then. And I believe that as of this point, we are seeing a very undervalued Virgin Galactic right now. But this we will discuss in the conclusion of this video. And the third company news that I categorize is actually the core business news, because the core business news are something that will impact the company's future very heavily. But sometimes it's not that affecting the stock price. So this you have to consider, to understand. So in this news, I will see the Q2 earnings will be huge, guys. We will see maybe much more reservations, which is then a turnover in the future, and it's really affecting the stock price and the company over the long term. Second, we will see how far they can go with the tests, and then maybe a date one day in the next couple of months when Richard will go into the air. This also will show us that they bring Richard into the air, and directly after they can take the first tourist into the air as well, and this will be the huge breakthrough, guys. Okay, this will double the stock easily, guys. Though the companies and the stocks don't have a memory, so the stock doesn't know that it was at 40 almost and it need to go there, but we know that in the current environment where Nikola has a stock valuation of $30 billion and no revenue, that a Virgin Galactic, after breakthrough of the first flight with Richard Branson and after following the first tourism flights, I believe that we see more than 40 as a stock price real soon. And as a timeline, I'm giving this a couple of months until the end of the year, and therefore let's dive into the conclusion. So summarized in the conclusion, we see that I believe that Virgin Galactic at this moment is undervalued, not only by the overall market that is want to go up, but also that the overall market conditions that we never had before, those are unprecedented conditions, okay? Where we have Robinhood, we have other full-thrown investors that are looking now into the next big Tesla after such a successful Tesla. Then we see that more and more space is adopted as, you know, the new reality and industry. Plus we have the 3 different types of news that will impact the stock and the company. And then we will see a huge development into the core business, which will happen in the next couple of months. And therefore, I believe that the double of the stock will happen towards end of this year, latest, guys, because then this all together, all parties and all measures of the stock market will take care that we absolutely take off with Virgin Galactic.